Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to When We Walk. This is a podcast where we discuss the questions we all ask as we walk through life. I'm Micah.
And I'm Shireen.
Let's chat.
So, okay, let's talk about this. We've never talked about this. The fact that we have drinks in our hands.
Yep.
What are you drinking?
Latte.
Today is the latte.
Today's a latte day. I just saw it when I came in, and it just
What do you mean you saw it?
At our stories.
Okay.
At our stories that we have here.
We are not sponsored by Stories yet. We love them.
Here at Lifegate. And so I came in, dropped the kids off at school. I walked by it and thought,
it caught your eye.
Latte day. Mm-hmm.
What latte? A flavored?
No.
Fall flavor?
Nope. Just straight.
Now, the other day you did get a pumpkin spice.
Pumpkin spice latte.
You did it. You dove right in.
Going to a kid's soccer game, and there was like a little bit of fall in the air. I can't remember the last time I had one of those. It's probably been years, and I thought this is a great way to start my morning.
Yes.
It was great. It was delicious.
Well, and I, for those of you who don't know, don't like coffee.
Which is so sad.
I have my own homemade London Fog.
Yes, you do.
That I made.
You made London Fog, not chai.
No, yeah, I did London Fog this time.
Nice.
I like I don't know. Sometimes I just need a different flavor profile.
Yeah.
Right? You just change it up.
And you don't always have time to do chai.
I don't. My chai process is like a ritual.
Mm-hmm. It is.
I enjoy the process, and if I don't have time to actually do the process, I don't want to.
Your chai process and your hair process.
Both are a process.
Like you have to schedule into your week when you're going to do. And your bread baking.
Oh, yeah.
You take on some long processes.
Subject. Sour. No pun intended. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay. Anyway, Joran, what do we have? Hi. Hi, guys. Hey, Naomi.
Hey, guys.
How are we starting off today? What do you got for us?
So we had some questions left over from previous podcasts.
Yeah.
So
Great.
I just want to sprinkle a few of those in, as well as some questions I had, just because I was curious.
Okay. Right, I can't wait.
Yes.
So I'll start off with one from our audience.
Okay.
If you had just each other plan a date for you, what would be your ideal date?
Ooh. Wow.
Okay.
Like if I planned a date for her.
So if she planned
you planned a date, or if I planned a date,
what would be your
do?
ideal date?
Okay, you start.
I think if it's for you, we would probably
it's for us. It's a date.
Well, I know, but something you would like.
Yeah.
Probably go walk around and look at shoes somewhere, like a shoe store. Scheels. You do like to walk around Scheels.
I do. Browse.
It's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then go eat somewhere really good.
Mm-hmm.
Probably Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something else unique. I don't know. You're not like a big you like just all kinds of food.
I like
so
anything. Mm-hmm.
I feel like we can kind of change it up, and you like it. You actually do like changing it up. I don't as much. Don't. Mm-hmm. So I would probably pick a new restaurant for us to go to.
Yeah, it's great.
And then go walk around.
Walking. We always like to walk some on our dates after we eat.
Yeah.
And in the winter,
it's hard.
Omaha,
we have a hard time planning dates.
We don't know where to go because then we can't walk around afterwards. Yeah. There's nowhere to walk around.
I would probably though also find a movie or something because you do like a movie. But I never.
Never?
No.
Wow, in 20 years, I don't think you've ever suggested
I have a few times, not very much.
Okay. Amazing what a podcast brings out. I would. It's great. So this on the same theme. If I were planning for you, I mean, it would be like a show of some sort. It would be a musical,
yes,
or it would be some
show.
kind of activity where we can be entertained a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think you enjoy that.
I do.
And then food.
Always food.
Yeah.
Always food for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we would do.
Yep.
Great. If you could make the best ultimate sandwich, what would be on your sandwich?
Oh.
Ooh, an ultimate sandwich.
If you're sandwich people.
You know, one of my
we are.
favorite
for sure.
sandwiches, when I just think of deli type sandwich, is Brian's.
Oh, Brian's Subs.
In Dublin, Georgia. Yep.
If anyone ever goes to my little hometown of Dublin, Georgia, there is a local little sub restaurant that outshines every other deli meat.
It's so good.
Place.
He like slices it right there.
He slices it fresh right there. He this is like one of those
his proportions
where you go
great.
where everybody knows your name kind of place. Yeah. That is this place. And you walk in and he's like, it used to be Miss Caboli for me, my maiden name. Hey, Miss Caboli, do you want a whatever I would usually get?
Yeah.
And he slices it fresh.
Good. Yeah.
He makes it right
it's like
there.
Italian, which all like the Italian meats, and then the oil and vinegar and cheese. His bread is so soft. That's the one. That's like the standard in my mind.
I know.
So anytime I do any other kind of like sub-type sandwich, I always think it's not Brian's.
Oh, yeah. That is really good. I don't want to go just classic deli.
Okay.
I feel like sometimes I like to do like, can I do like open faced toast?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because that could that count? I do love to do always like some sort of fun, fancy toast, either with avocado and a runny egg or, and I know this isn't a sandwich, but it basically could be because it's on toast, or like a fruit spread and then goat cheese.
Yeah.
And then like fancy. Arugula and something else, like honey drizzled on it. I don't know. That's what I've done.
That's what you'll do at home. What I'll do,
I will.
What I will never get tired of is peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, that's true.
You're a classic. Eat peanut butter and jelly every day. I did for 12 years. and growing like all through elementary, middle, high school, it was peanut butter and jelly every day. And I never got tired of it.
Do you like the homemade, like just not homemade, but you make it yourself, or do you like the prepackaged?
Oh, it's got to be homemade. Yeah. Home slathered. Yeah. The prepackaged. I was never into those Uncrustables and stuff like that. To me, it was,
got to just make it with your old classic white bread. Yeah. Okay.
And then I have one more question. It's kind of related, but what's a food combination that is normal or maybe not normal that people eat that you can't get behind it?
Can't go together.
Ooh, I know. Because this is a Southern thing. I just saw someone talk about it. Banana mayonnaise sandwiches.
Ooh, gosh.
Did y'all know this is a thing in the South?
Ooh.
Banana mayonnaise sandwiches. Yeah. I think I had friends who ate them, and I could not. I couldn't even be around it. Listen, I love bananas. I love bread, and I like mayonnaise. I do not think those things go together.
No.
But it is a thing.
It is a thing.
And people love them.
I just can't. Yeah, I can't imagine. Is there like a nickname for that?
That is a no.
Feels like there's somebody would have thought of a nickname for that by now.
I wonder if there is.
Like that feels like you could make
banana mayonnaise sandwiches. I don't know.
I feel like it shouldn't be normalized.
No, not
but
at all.
But it is. It is in the South.
What about apple pie and cheese? Or isn't that one like cheddar cheese?
Some people melt cheese on top of their apple pies. Yes.
Yeah,
that is
I would not be down with that either. Yeah. No, I can put like a slice of cheese on a sliced apple. That's nice.
Yes. Yeah.
But to put cheese on top of I'm
with
not
ice cream and
no. Ooh, no, not with ice cream.
Cheese.
Even though ice cream's dairy.
Yeah.
Did you say we would want to eat these weird combinations or not?
You would. I can't get behind it. I can't think of one right now because I can just throw things on a plate. Like
you really
when
can.
I'm just like it's time for lunch and we're cleaning out the fridge, I can literally just grab whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll create your deal and have this amazing meal, and I will literally just grab anything out of anywhere and eat it. It's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah, those are our answers.
I can't get behind mushrooms, but
mushroom anything Micah would not do.
I try to stay away from dirt and fungus. So.
There you have it.
Yep.
Dirt and fungus. Okay, those are good questions. All centered around food, which we love. So, okay. Hard shift.
Okay.
But, okay. So, in my Bible reading, I was reading the book of Habakkuk.
Wow.
Which no one ever starts a sentence like that.
No.
Tell me the last time you said, so the last time I read the book of Habakkuk.
Yeah, I mean.
When was the last time you talked to someone about the book of Habakkuk?
Had a conversation about Habakkuk was right now.
Yeah. Maybe in seminary.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
I didn't think then. Yeah, tiny little book.
Okay, so I'm doing this Bible reading plan. I've made it to Habakkuk, although it's chronological, so it's not like I'm that far. I'm like going back to Jeremiah in a couple days. But I read it. I can't even tell you the last time I like read Habakkuk and like understood it. I probably just read it in my Bible plan and just like kept going because it's 3 chapters. So you can read it in a day and move right along, and not much of it might register with you.
Right. There's a couple verses that are maybe more common to people.
Yep. That they've probably heard out of context.
Overall context of the 3 chapters, most people don't get.
Yeah. If you would just read it, you'd just be like, oh, okay. More of the same with all these prophets and the things Israel's doing, blah, blah, blah. But I watched, before I read the book, I watched the Bible Project video, which if you are not watching Bible Project videos about scripture, you should add it to your plan.
Add it. Or if you struggle to like make sense of what you're reading, Bible Project helps so much.
It helps so much. And so I watched the video, which set up what the book is about. And already just the video alone, I was like, this is fascinating. Why aren't we telling more people to read the Book of Habakkuk?
Oh, okay. Especially
in our day and age, in this cultural moment, dare I say, even in America.
Okay.
Because, you're the Bible scholar among the two of us, but I hope I'm going to get this right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jordan, you can fact check me too. But it's set in the time where Israel, like Babylon, is just taking over, right? Like they're coming in, they're like taking over Israel.
It's set in the last few years before of Israel's southern kingdom, before the Babylon was about to
kind of conquer, right? And take over. And what we know of Babylon is like, they're terrible.
Right.
They like one of the worst.
The epitome of evil.
The epitome of evil in every way. I mean, literally every way. What, right? Like child sacrificing and all kinds of just sexual immorality, violent, very violent, very focused on their
wealth, power.
Yes, power and their military and being powerful, like putting all their trust in their military, putting all their trust in their power and being able to conquer and all of that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like Israel was doing real well either. They were not following the ways of the Lord, and many of the prophets had to like come and say, hey, you're not doing the thing God told you to do. But the thing that stuck out to me that was specifically highlighted in this video is that Habakkuk is I think he said the only prophet who does not go and directly address Israel in their sin, or the Babylonians, like in what they're doing. Instead, he sees the destruction coming. He's so distraught about it. He's watching his nation and he's hurt and he's broken about it. He's upset that they're not following Yahweh, and he knows what God's called them to, and he's heard, all these other probably prophets before him, and he's distraught. But instead, he takes it to the Lord, and he takes his complaints. In fact, it's so funny. Like, I was looking at it, and it does say Habakkuk's first complaint is like the title of or his complaint. And then his second complaint.
Right.
Like, he's not happy.
No.
But he takes it to the Lord instead of going. And I know it's because he wasn't, this is my guess, right? Like, God didn't tell him to go talk to Israel. He didn't tell him to go and say these things. The other prophets, God did. He said, go and share these things.
Yeah.
And it always feels like, gosh, they're going and sharing out of anger. And Habakkuk probably feels the same way, but he goes back to the Lord. And it's like they have this dialogue about what the horrible things happening in the world. And I think it hit me of like, this is how it feels right now. In the U.S., especially coming up on an election season, which goodness knows that feels like PTSD for so many of us. But the idea that it kind of feels like we're in Babylon. And I think Tim Mackey even says in his description of that video, many nations end up becoming like Babylon over years because we just get so focused on the things of the world, power, money, whatever, like we succumb to the ways of the world. And that's what it feels like right now.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's it's a conversation between Habakkuk and the Lord that was extremely relevant in its day, but carries, I think, the same principles today.
Yeah, that's what I kept thinking. Yeah. I'm like, why aren't we telling more people?
Yeah.
We all need to be in the book of Habakkuk for this season of life. Yeah. And even more like, I just think there are so many Christians in the world right now who are seeing what's happening. We all feel it. It feels like we are in a Babylon season.
Yeah.
It feels like America is becoming Babylon in some ways.
For sure.
And we're not being taken over by another country, but we are kind of coming into this evil, can you say it this way? Evil age almost, like with so many things around us, and we're just succumbing to it in some ways as a culture. And I know for so many believers, it's scary to watch. And we want to be like these, oh my gosh, don't do that. And almost more like the Isaiahs, the Jeremiahs, the, Ezekiel's, whoever, like, no, we can't go this way. Turn from your wicked ways and turn back to the ways of God. But actually, I think it was very refreshing to read this and say, wait, but this feels like a really wise way to approach this in our post-Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it gives us, I think, I think it gives us a framework on how to think about things, because we as Christians look at what's happening in the world around us and we panic, or we get angry, or we divide, we throw stones, we pull back.
Yeah.
Just like apathy, giving up, like, man, it just doesn't even matter. And you see here a guy who is, observing what's happening, and his response to that is to go to the Lord.
Yeah.
And to say, here's my complaint. And, his first one is, how long must I call to you for help? Yes. Do you not listen? I mean, it
feels like that's who we are right now.
Where are you?
Yeah.
Like righteousness is supposed to shine like the dawn, and injustice is supposed to be thrown down, and it's not happening. It feels as though injustice is winning right now. Darkness is winning right now. Oppression is winning right now. Violence, materialism, greed, lust, immorality is winning right now. Like, where are you? And I love that he's taking it to the Lord. He's not first and foremost attacking people.
Yeah.
Who might represent that.
Yes.
I think it's always important to remember when we kind of evaluate the landscape of a culture, that ultimately people are not our enemy.
Yes.
Our enemy is the enemy.
Yes.
The enemy of our souls, who wants to influence people and societies and countries into a particular direction. And it starts all the way back at the garden. And so it's not
darn garden situation.
And as soon as that, that forbidden fruit got into their bodies, what did they do? They started attacking one another. But that's not, like, ultimately it was, how do you unite and work against the evil in the world? So I think that's part of this, is it gives us this perspective to not lose sight of, you could say it this way, God, what are you doing? Like,
that's what I felt like.
Where are you?
What
are you up to right now?
And he starts with that question.
Yeah. And then he goes on, his second one, aren't you from everlasting to everlasting? Are your eyes too pure to look? Aren't your eyes too pure to look at evil? Like, he continues to press like this issue of, like, we need you to act. We need you to engage. We need to know where you're at in the midst of all this.
Because I think I just felt it like him, like, this is what it feels like. Like, we're watching our nation tear apart this, and it's affecting the church very much. We feel it as leaders in the church. And I think the minute I read it, I was like, oh my gosh, this resonated so much in my heart, of the tension of, yeah, God, I do feel like, are we becoming Babylon? What's happening? What is Babylon? What does it look like in this day and age? Is that happening here? And then where are you? I think I just like felt for him. But I think what I also loved was that he turned to the Lord first. Like, that felt, not that I'm not saying that the other prophets did anything wrong. Right. They did what God told them to do in that context, in that time. But God's not, we don't have prophets in the same way today. And so reading Habakkuk felt like, wow, this feels like the response maybe the church should have, that we should have. There's even a portion in here where he talks about being a watchman on the wall or something. I can't remember.
I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts.
Yes. And you hear, I have at least heard at times people say, yeah, God's placed me as a watchman, but almost more in this like sometimes negative sense. Like I'm watching all the people out there going into all the evil things, and I'm going to catch them and I'm going to speak to them. And I've heard people in the church say those things. And then I read this and I'm like, wait a second, this was a different, the way what he's watching for the Lord.
He says, I will look to see what he will say to me and what answer I am to give to this complaint. And so he's looking
totally different.
If you think about a watchman on a wall, a lot of times we think watchmen we treat a watchman as though I'm going to stand on the wall and I'm going to look at the city and evaluate how the city's doing
and be sure everything's okay,
to call things out when they're wrong. What watchmen do is they look outside of the city. They look to the horizon to see where the threats are. And for a God-centered watchman, and I think this is what Habakkuk is doing, is he's not looking for the threats. He sees the threat. He sees it in the city. He turns his eyes to the horizon to find the Lord. Where is the Lord in the midst of this?
Yes.
What is he going to say in the midst of this? How would he have us respond to this? And then you have the Lord's answer, which is really, I think, enlightening.
It is. And it's God actually not, there's some discouraging parts and there's some obviously very encouraging because he's talking about Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And he gets to, I think the Lord does affirm, like, injustice doesn't win.
Yeah.
Like darkness will not have the final say. Yeah. It's the simple, the mentality of like, the consequence of sin is sin. Like we, so our kids have gone from a great Christian school to now they're in public school where they're getting exposed to all kinds of things.
Right.
And we have taken the approach, this isn't for everybody, but we've taken the approach to say, we kind of want our kids to get exposed to and
experience
while they're still under our roof, like what the world has to offer, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that we can process it with them.
Right. Before we send them off to college or off into the world.
And them get exposed to this stuff for the first time. And and it's been a good experience. One of the things with that, we can often think, God, we just want to keep our kids so far away from anything sinful, anything dark. But the other side of that is if they are around it, at least in proximity, they can see the result of this way of living. Like you can see the result of sin. And wisdom would say, I don't want that. Like I don't want to live that way because look at all the drama that brings into their life. Look at the trauma that created. Look at the toxicity there. Look at, whatever it is for us to evaluate and recognize, like at the end of the day, righteousness wins and injustice will not. And God's making that clear here. Jordan's got a thought.
I think in today's world, some people have confusion on like distinguishing what is sin and what is evil because there's so many different like narratives. How would you guys, give advice to someone who's asking that question? Like, how do I know what's evil in this world?
That is so true.
Yeah. So kind of frame it this way. Great question. Like if we are Babylon,
which it looks more and more that way. Yeah.
In what ways is that true in our world today? Like what really is sin?
Yeah. I don't know. You're the Bible scholar here.
Sin is too.
I mean, I think, well, first of all, I would say, I do think people like immediately go to, oh, this is evil because it's whatever, like of the world. I think anything that obviously, first of all, you can go clearly to some of the things that Jesus says. First, the 10 Commandments, and then he reiterates and brings them back up in a new light in his Sermon on the Mount. And you can go to some of those things because he is widening what that looks like in our lives. I think it's anything that pulls us away from the Lord, right? That pulls us from who he is, from his presence, from relationship with him. That will cut us off from relationship with him.
Yeah, and others, right?
Oh, yeah, and others.
I mean, you think of the 10 Commandments. The first are how we relate to God. Next are how we relate to one another.
Yeah.
Like sin is anything that we do that lives either independently of or in contrast to honoring God and valuing others.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus said it very clearly, the greatest commandments, love God, love others. And so that's a great question, because if you fall too far on one side or the other, you actually are still choosing sin.
That's true.
Because those things are to be held in tension. So for example, if you say, well, I love God, so I can be as cruel and judgmental, and let's even say, use the extreme of like the Crusades and stuff, as violent as I want to be to the world around us, because we are destroying evil.
Right.
Because we love God. But in your attempt to destroy evil, you are actually destroying other human beings.
Right, which are made in his image.
Yep.
And he said, one of the things you're supposed to do is love your enemies.
Right. Then flip that and say, okay, well, then I just love everybody. And I love you just the way you are, and however you are, and whatever you identify as, and however you want to live. But that's not honoring the wisdom of how God has called us to live, made in his image. Then that's wrong too.
Well, I mean, I see what you're getting. I mean, loving is not wrong. Like showing love, expressing love. I think
but saying that that it's righteous.
Yes, those things are righteous are different.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So you have to call out the part of living a certain way, or choosing a certain thing is still unrighteous, but the loving of the person in whatever it is we're still called to do.
Yeah. And so you kind of see this even in world history. You see certain governments that are set up like theocratic governments. They're all focused on the laws of God, and they try to enforce the laws of God and subjugate human beings to the laws of God. And they create oppressive governments under the name of God. Or other governments or societies that are humanistic. They so elevate humanity.
Yep. And then
just
you see all
be
kinds
you
of,
and let everybody just be free to do whatever they want to do, that they've forgotten God.
Because what it ends up doing is people will fall into such selfishness that your selfishness hurts others eventually. Yeah. We don't realize it, but it happens.
Okay. So is there a follow-up question on that? Did that help?
Yeah.
Or was that just as confusing?
That was great. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think the harder part is like when we as believers see that kind of sin. First, we can't take ourselves out of that picture. Mm-hmm. Like we are all still sinful.
Yeah.
We are all still like, I can still easily fall into the temptation of greed and materialism from scrolling Instagram and thinking I need everything every influencer is sharing, and that can take my focus and easily take me down a path towards sin. Mm-hmm. So we're not immune to it. So we can't remove ourselves. And I think that is what sometimes people who call themselves going back to the Watchman thing, like we can remove ourselves, take ourselves out of like, we are not this. So we're watching, and we're going to point our fingers at what's happening and call it out, versus instead, and what feels like the thing Jesus has called us to now in learning to love is I'm going to look for where the evil is actually coming from, not within as much. And then I'm going to look for the Lord. Like, what is God doing? I think one of the things as we're talking through this that really stuck out to me was the fact that even though all of this was happening, Babylon is so awful, Israel has so turned from God, yet Habakkuk is still saying, but where are you? Mm-hmm. And that's what gave me hope in reading this and saying, we're in a culture that feels like Babylon. I'm saying these same things he is. God, where are you? We're calling out for help. Don't you hate injustice? Don't you hate what's happening? Don't you see what's going on here? And then instead of just staying in that place of anger and frustration and thinking we're going to hell in a handbasket, finding hope by looking for what God's doing and being okay with God's answer. Because his answer to Habakkuk wasn't, oh, I'm going to deliver you tomorrow. Okay.
Right.
Like that.
It was about to get real bad.
You know what? Like, let me just help you out today. No, actually, the Babylonians are still going to come. And it's still going to be terrible. Because kind of the way we said earlier, like, you need to see how, like, you chose this in many ways, but then also I can redeem it on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, okay, God, we can endure if we know that there's hope on the other side too. Yeah. And that there's something to learn through this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so. I think the kingdom of God, justice, will always prevail. Sometimes it will prevail in the moment, and sometimes it will prevail over the long haul, or down the road, I should say. But even when it's not prevailing in the moment, justice is revealed.
That's good.
Meaning, and so it still wins in a sense of like, even when we're in a world, an environment, in a society, a culture, a setting where injustice, where unrighteousness is what is most on the surface, you begin to see it's not that great.
No.
Like there is actually a better way, because sin is a consequence for sin. And so, Habakkuk is able to see, like, hey, darkness seems like it's winning right now. And I'm discouraged by that. Like, I want you to show up, and I want you to, like, today, I want you to prevail. Well, God allows darkness to continue to prevail for a while because he has a bigger purpose, which is drawing his people back to him.
Yes.
And they have been trying to be like Babylon.
Yes.
And now they're going to be overrun by Babylon, and they're going to become exiles, and they will return to the Lord because they will realize this doesn't end well.
This doesn't work. Why?
This doesn't work.
We shouldn't go this direction.
So even when justice, when righteousness, you could say, is not winning, it's still winning in the hearts of those who look to the Lord and are willing to look to the Lord, because it will say, man, this is not the better way. This is not the good life. This is not how God has called us to live. And so it's always redemptive. And I think that's part of what God's trying to get to Habakkuk is like, hey, don't worry. Like, there will come a time when all this is made right. But until then, I will use this unrightness to right your hearts and to draw
to turn your hearts back.
Yeah.
I think that is probably a good way to end with encouragement of like, okay, if we're called to be watchmen, we're looking for God and what he's doing. And we need to project that goodness back into what feels like Babylon's takeover right now. And instead find the stories where God's moving and share those, and find the hope from scripture and testimonies that he's still doing things, to share those instead of looking and going, what's happening?
Yep.
And then I love how this book ends. This is my favorite part, where he says at the end in 17, though the fig tree does not bud, though there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there is no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls. Basically, like, we have no food. We're going to die. This looks like the end. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. I think that is like the fact that that is how Habakkuk ends this whole what sounds like doomsday. I'm like, okay, I think we can make it through another election season. Maybe we should all read Habakkuk more. I don't know.
Until righteousness does prevail, those who look to the Lord will be okay.
Yeah.
We'll be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately what he's getting at.
I do too.
It's good.
So
good thoughts. I'm glad you read it.
Listen, I'm going to go tell everybody now. Listen, we should all be reading Habakkuk.
Turns out. Some good things to say.
Next time you start a dinner conversation, you can say, when I was reading the book of Habakkuk. There you go, guys.
That's great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being with us on When We Walk. Can't wait to be with you next time.